My name is Lea Silvert. I grew up in Woodbridge, Connecticut, but have always had a strong connection to my family in Canada and Israel. Over 40 years ago, my mother's older sister, Judih, went on a visit to Israel where she met, fell in love with, and married a jazz musician who became my uncle Gadi. They made their home on a small kibbutz named Nir Oz, where they raised my cousins, Iris, Al, Ram, and Zohar. I visited them 3 times, twice when I was a child, and then a 3rd time after graduating college. Nir Oz was a tight-knit community, more like a large extended family, where everyone knew one another. My aunt and uncle's neighbors were for many years the Bibas family, whose tragic story you have probably read about. My Aunt Judih and Uncle Gadi loved the wholesome life that kibbutz living provided. Judih was a special education teacher. Gadi served as the kibbutz chef. Every morning, after awakening before sunrise, they would start their day by sipping their espresso and then going for their long walk through the kibbutz fields and orchards. When they returned home, Judih would write haiku and meditate. They both had deep artistic interests and maintained a global network of writers, poets, and musicians with whom they sustained close, long-lasting relationships. Nir Oz is located just 1 mile from the Gaza border. Sirens, missile launches, and sprints to safe rooms were a normal part of life. For the most part, my aunt and uncle seemed to take this in stride. The last time I saw them, however, was in the summer of 2023 in Toronto, Canada. They seemed more concerned than usual. My uncle Gadi said that war was coming. Judih told us at the first whisper of renewed conflict, they were going to pack up and leave. On the morning of October 7th, 2023, my mother and I received a message through our family's WhatsApp group from my cousin Iris, who lives in Singapore. She reported that her parents were not responding to texts. As the day went on, we began to understand that there had been a ground invasion, and we learned about the frantic texts from people across the kibbutz as terrorists entered their homes and forced their way into their safe rooms. As reports poured in, we became desperate to understand what had happened to Judih and Gadi. Several days later, Iris received a video that Judih had taken and texted to friends on the morning of October 7th. Hundreds of missiles were flying overhead, and she and Gadi were lying down in the kibbutz orchard, trying to take cover. It was not until 2.5 months later that we received a call from an Israeli intelligence officer who shared with us all they had been able to confirm. On October 7th, my Aunt Judih and Uncle Gadi got up early, as they always did, and left for their morning walk. At about 7 a.m., they were in the citrus grove where Judih shot the video of the rocket barrage. They dropped to the ground to take cover. Shortly after that, 1 or 2 terrorists drove by on motorcycles and shot Gadi in the head. Judih was also shot, but was able to call the equivalent of 911 and pleaded for them to send an ambulance. Unfortunately, the ambulance was attacked and destroyed en route. We understand that Judih and Gadi both died from their wounds, and their bodies were loaded onto the back of a truck and driven into Gaza, where they remain to this day as hostages. We think that my Uncle Gadi and Aunt Judih may have been Kibbutz Nir Oz's first casualties. By the end of the day, however, more than a quarter of the Nir Oz kibbutz community had either been murdered or kidnapped to Gaza. As my cousin Iris explained, in one day, she lost her parents, her friends, her childhood babysitter, her former teachers, and the community with whom she had grown up. In the months that followed, my mother and I became connected to other hostage families, especially the American hostage families. Our loved ones had been silenced, and we knew that we had to speak for them until each and every one of them is returned home. Working together, we participated in hundreds of meetings, panels, and speeches. Eventually, this took us to the White House, the State of the Union Address, and the Democratic National Convention. Others went to the Republican National Convention. We met with American politicians and world leaders, including President Biden, Vice President Harris, Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer, former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, and many others. One of our key allies in this effort has been AJC, which facilitated hundreds of meetings with members of Congress and numerous other national leaders. AJC made it clear from the get-go that they wanted to support our effort in every way possible, and they never disappointed us. More than a year and a half later, our struggle continues. We will not stop until my Aunt Judih and Uncle Gadi and all the 57 hostages, both dead and alive, are returned home. In a world of 24-hour news, where some may have forgotten there are still hostages in Gaza, we must continue to say their names and honor their stories. We must continue to create an environment where we can nurture safety, humanity, and community. Our hostage families look to you and our community to continue to support and hold us as we continue to advocate for our loved ones day in and day out. Until all the hostages are returned home, our hearts will not be whole, but our voices can be united and resolute. This has been my journey to freedom.